Welcome to Talk to Connect, the podcast where we explore how to have transformative engagement to create stronger personal and professional relationships. I created this podcast because connection with others has become more difficult in this time of heavy social media, differing viewpoints, and increased anxiety in the world. I'm your host, Michelle Franklin, so let's talk to connect. Well, it's still January, so I like to say Happy New Year, and I hope many of you have started the new year off focused on those things that will bring you joy and happiness and fulfillment. I do also recognize this time we're in is a very, very interesting one, right? So, much of my career journey has been centered around mental health. Now, I've worked as a therapist for individuals, family therapy, support groups, court-ordered anger management classes, couples counseling, domestic violence survivors, and child therapy. And I have to say, in all my years being immersed in the mental health field, I can't think of a time where I've encountered so many people from just all walks of life, backgrounds, socioeconomic status, genders, ethnicities, all having such a high level of mental health stressors with anxiety and depression and just overall lack of good mental well-being. So in today's episode, we're going to slow down and breathe a little deeper as we explore taking control over our own mental well-being. Because for many of us, there's just so much going on in our families, at work, and in the world that we're finding happiness has become like, an emotional commodity that's no longer just easy to come by. And that definitely occurs with less frequency. So we don't want to ignore that fact, right? Now, we know we have various, we'll say, mood altering drinks and foods and activities that we have access to. And I'm not here to cast any aspersions on choices made by adults. And what I will focus on in this episode is ways that you can shape your own mood and well-being for free. Experiencing joy, happiness, peace, and connection with others is still a choice. So this podcast is about the powerful, game-changing, natural wellness chemicals that we produce in our bodies to support our own wellness. And you actually have a few options to choose from that you can focus on. So the first natural chemical that I want to discuss that contributes to our wellness is my absolute favorite that I am very intentional on releasing this one on the daily, and that's endorphins. Now, this one is known as the laughing chemical, and I am intentional with it in my family, with my son, my mom, and my work relationships. And we'll discuss later a natural wellness chemical that you can get produced because of our connection with others. But this one, endorphins, we can actually produce all on our own. So we can listen to comedy radio, watch our favorite comedian, or comedy TV shows and movies. And even if you're not in the mood, the right comedian or movie can still make you laugh. And the benefits of endorphins are profound. First, science has shown that releasing endorphins actually reduces physical pain, but also lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So it decreases stress, and that's something I think that we all can use right about now. Now, in addition to laughter, other ways to release endorphins is from 2 of the 5 love languages. The first being acts of kindness. So you know that sensation and fulfillment you receive when you do something nice for someone without a motive attached? Well, that's actually endorphins being released. Another love language is physical touch. So hugs, holding hands. Well, this is a family-friendly podcast, so I'll just leave it at that. But physical touch. Now, another natural chemical that many are familiar with is called dopamine. And you may have even heard the phrase dopamine hit, right? So that's like a momentum chemical. So when you get a dopamine hit, it gives you a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. Now, one way it gets released is when your brain knows something great or exciting is getting ready to happen or has already happened. So, a few ways you can release it is from trying a new experience, celebrating progress and not perfection, and focusing on tiny wins as benchmarks along the way with huge projects, or even visualizing a victory or having already accomplished something that you are still working on can actually produce dopamine. And if you want to actually supersize that dopamine hit in celebrating progress or with your tiny win, or even with your visualization, just write it down. Or in a gratitude journal, make a collage of it, or better yet, share it with someone. Now, use discernment. I will say that if you're going to share it with someone, share it with someone who is encouraging and you know they have a positive mindset on the importance of small victories because small victories all contribute to huge success. So, experiencing dopamine can help you stay focused because you are feeling a sense of accomplishment and momentum. So, it's kind of like a circular reward system, right? So, the more you are productive, the more you experience the dopamine, which is satisfying, which then makes you want to continue to be productive. So, it's circular in that respect. The third wellness chemical is serotonin. It's the mood chemical. And it actually doesn't get talked about as much as its cousin, which is melatonin. Now, what do I mean by that? So, if your body is functioning properly, so good nutrition, low stress, exercising, all those things that are becoming more and more rare for people. Okay, so I'll speak for myself. My exercise is, I don't know, taking the stairs up one flight to my office instead of the elevator. Okay, now to be fair, I do bring a rolling laptop bag to work, so it's just a little easier to take the elevator. Okay, I digress. So, serotonin. Serotonin is largely produced by food intake. So, balanced meals with complex carbs. Also, from deep breathing or mindfulness, sunlight exposure, all those things help produce serotonin. So when it's produced, it's the chemical that actually in your brain is used to make melatonin. Yes, we can actually produce our own melatonin. Now, before you go crossing out melatonin gummies off your list for your next shopping trip, you have to ask yourself, are you eating right? Are you exercising? Do you live in a world that has little stress? So if not, maybe you want to keep it on your list for now, but also explore other ways to make those changes, right? So serotonin regulates our mood to feel calm and balanced, also our digestion, memory, and alertness. And it's used to make the melatonin, which is called the nighttime chemical, and that controls our sleep cycle and signals to the body that it's time to rest. So, the last one I want to talk about is called oxytocin. And you can think of this one as the connection chemical. So, it's the reason a hug can calm you down, or a real meaningful conversation can dramatically shift and uplift your whole day. So, it's present in various levels when we experience connection with others. And it sends a signal to our brain and produces a feeling of emotional safety and trust with that person. And it also decreases social anxiety and strengthens empathy. So, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier about mental health, wellness, the increases in anxiety and depression, this one is so important because it is about strengthening our connection with others. And with all that's going on, that has so many of us having wellness challenges, we really do need the connection of others to be resilient during this time. Now, some of you may be saying at this point, but I'm not a people person, or I'm an introvert, I'm shy. Okay, I get it. I said all those things about myself at various points in my life. And I even threw in that I'm an only child and I'm from LA, so I don't trust people, just for good measure, right? To build my case as to why I don't socialize that much or why I eat at lunch at my desk all the time when others are walking out going somewhere, right? So I get it. And I had to have the conversation with myself that I had with my son recently, who also has a similar temperament to me, that it's important to get out of that so called comfort zone and put yourself out there to talk and connect with others. Now, I'm not saying go from 0 to 60 and now you're this social butterfly, life of the party, because that would be weird. But you do want to take some time to think about it. Who is, I don't know, just one person in your life right now that you would want to spend some time with? Maybe every other week, not every day, just to talk and connect with on a personal level. So, not talking about work, but maybe talking about, I don't know, shared hobbies, interests, your kids. I mean, parents, we always light up when we talk about our kids, right? Well, many of us, maybe not everybody. I do anyway. So, since this podcast is now up to about 35,000 subscribers, I've actually been considering reaching out to some VIP subscribers on hosting Talk to Connect listening sessions to listen to new episodes with like 4 or 5 others and then share their takeaways with each other in action items. That will be my next vision for Talk to Connect, putting the name of the podcast into practice. Hint, hint. Anyone out there interested, let me know. So, oxytocin gets produced when we have meaningful conversations and spend quality time with others, even pets, and also through physical touch. So, to summarize, we can produce our own wellness chemicals to boost our mood, reduce stress, and strengthen social connection. And guess what? The chemicals don't actually operate in isolation, they can stack and work together. So, let's recap. Endorphins is the laughing chemical. Benefits: reduces physical stress, but also lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So it decreases stress. How do we produce it? Through laughter, acts of kindness, and physical touch. Dopamine, the momentum chemical. Benefits: feelings of satisfaction and fulfillment. How to produce it? Trying a new experience, celebrating progress and not perfection, and focus on tiny wins as benchmarks along the way with huge projects. Even visualizing a victory or having already accomplished something that you are still working on. Serotonin, the mood chemical. Benefits: regulates our mood to feel calm and balanced, our digestion, memory, and alertness. How to produce it? Through food intake, balanced meals with complex carbs, deep breathing or mindfulness, sunlight exposure. And oxytocin, the connection chemical. Benefits: produces a feeling of emotional safety and trust with people, decreases social anxiety, and strengthens empathy. How to produce it? Meaningful conversations, spending quality time with others and pets, and through physical touch. So, my questions for you to reflect on for this episode are: one, which of the wellness chemicals do you feel you already do a good job in producing? So, see what I did there? I'm starting off with activating your dopamine, a momentum chemical, so you can give yourself an acknowledgement first. Now, number two, which wellness chemical are you going to choose to intentionally activate over the next 7 days? And I would suggest once you decide, journal over the next 7 days on what you intentionally did to activate that wellness chemical and what were the results. And feel free to share either to my email or the comment section where you listen to this podcast. I would really love to hear the results. Let's have a wellness movement in this time of, I don't know, sometimes it just feels like chaos that's going on. Let's focus, though, on keeping our internal compass grounded, moving forward and focus on health, wellness, and connection. And one programming note, many of you know my podcasts are not AI generated, but from actual real life experiences that I've had or currently experiencing. And sometimes, it takes a minute for me to have a thoughtful and intentional reflection on the lessons, my shortcomings, the accomplishments, and all of that comes rolled up into just living life. So instead of trying to speed up my processing time or rush to make content, I'm changing the schedule of new episodes, and they will now be the fourth Tuesday of the month to give me proper reflection and processing time to hope that what I share continues to add value. Thank you for listening to Talk to Connect. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to follow or subscribe to my podcast and share it with others. A new episode will drop the fourth Tuesday of every month. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode, email me at michelle@letstalktoconnect.com. That's Michelle, spelled Michell. So that's 2 L's, no E on the end, at letstalktoconnect.com. So let's continue talking to connect and create transformation in our personal and professional relationships.